Rhea Ripley is back.
Took her time, didn't she?
Well, it's only been 3 months.
She's rarely on time.
That is a personal joke just for me and Dan. But welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast review of Monday Night Raw. Please do press the subscribe button, give us a little thumbs up as well. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts on this episode of the show. And if you're watching live, join our live conversation. Join our SWAF Nation and get your thoughts in on the show. And if you want those thoughts read out on the air, WrestleTalk.com/support is the place to go. We'll read out all of them before the end of the broadcast. Go and check out my edited review over on the WrestleTalk News channel.
But later.
Later, don't do it now. And the reaction that Ollie and I did to Rhea Ripley's return.
There you go.
So you can go and check out Ollie's...
That's where you've been all morning.
Oh, I mean, honestly,
reacting to things.
Today has been... So I did the news.
Yeah.
We did this reaction video. Mm-hmm. We recorded predicting Money in the Bank 2025 way too far in advance. Then I've recorded a 3 count. And now I'm doing this.
A veritable content farm.
And I was also booked in to do WrestleTalk After Dark after this. And I said to production manager Ben, I've been out to bit.
I'd like to go home.
I'd like to go home at some point. But we are here to review Monday Night Raw, which did have the big closing angle. Mm-hmm. I'm trying not to say her nickname because some people think that I just sound stupid when I say it.
Well, no, because there's a thing about British people. It's already a thing about American people saying it, but they can kind of get away with it a bit more, especially those of sort of like Latino heritage. But as British people, I struggle when she says it, and she's Australian, so there's something about the accents. It's like when, as a northerner, when I say latte, doesn't doesn't sound right.
Latte.
Some things don't sound right. So mammy coming out of our, it doesn't work.
Well, that's it, because like I just do it as the Irish would. Like for me, that's the joke is
mammy.
That I'm doing it like. So it's Irish, mammy.
Yeah.
As opposed to trying to do it like
mammy.
A Latino American person of saying mummy.
Which is, it's a lot harder.
Yes.
Rhea Ripley.
Mummy is home, everyone. So the main event of this show was Dominik Mysterio and Liv Morgan being forced to team together, or at least Liv was happy about it. Dom was being forced to team with her, taking on Rey Mysterio and Zelina Vega. They were having a fine little match. The finish of, one of the big spots of it was that Dom got tripped and he landed right in her vagina.
Which was very funny.
Which was very, very funny. And at the end of the match, Liv slid a chair in to distract the referee and then she crotched Rey Mysterio. She didn't need to do that. She's a legal participant in the match, so it's not outside interference.
Yes, although in the mixed match situation, the men and the women aren't supposed to have context. Have contact, so I suppose there's I'm with you.
It happens all the time.
It was much in the same way that Heatwave last night was a fatal 4-way where there was a rope break, and I don't know where we sit with rope breaks.
Well, I would always argue that what are you going to do? DQ them? It's mostly in submissions. Right. The whole point is like I'm going to give you the 5 count to break the holds.
Yeah.
Like,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh no, get off!
Well, I can't DQ you.
Yeah.
So I would say there are no rope breaks, but that's just me. So she did that. She distracted the referee. She crotched Rey Mysterio, and Dominik Mysterio hit the frog splash and got the win. The first time ever he's beaten his dad.
Yeah.
All thanks to Liv Morgan.
Wow.
And so he was like celebrating and stuff, and he hugged Liv Morgan, and it was like, whoa, actually, hold on, what are we doing here? Then Liv jumped up, she put her legs around his waist. They went down to the floor. And it was getting a bit hot and heavy. He'd already had an awkward boner segment earlier in the night. And just as he was about to...
Well, he sort of pulled back and was like, I didn't mean to hug you that quickly. And then as they fell over... Their head sort of... He looked like he was giving in.
He was giving in to temptation.
Yeah.
That's why what I really, really like about this return and why I think this return has, like, in this moment was pitched very well. It's only in the moment that he was about to give in to temptation did Rhea actually come down.
Yeah.
I've always been on the side that they are not in cahoots with one another.
No, I don't think they are.
This has just been Liv Morgan messing with Dominik Mysterio this whole time. But the moment that he nearly gave in to temptation... is when Mummy came home and she just...
I think I prefer you talking about boners.
Like, if we could talk about mummies and boners, like, it becomes a very different website. And so Mummy storms down to the ring and she is pissed off.
She certainly is.
Liv Morgan absolutely bails out of it. She is like, I'm not having any of this. Like, she gets out of there. She hightails it quicker than Chad Gable when he sees some fog around the ring. Absolutely bolted it from the ring. Rhea gets in, and she just begged Dom, look me in the eyes. Look me in the eyes. And Dom finally does, and he goes, hey!
Yeah.
Goes for the hug. And this is actually missed from the USA Network.
It was.
Just
not the first time in this specific storyline.
No, and Rhea Ripley ignores the hug, and she leaves. But Rhea Ripley is back.
Rhea Ripley has made her triumphant return to the airwaves. Got the pop I think we were all expecting, which is quite nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw someone say generational.
Oh, no. Yeah. I think...
that is, by the way, that's a word I'm looking to put in the bin.
Interesting, because I think it does... The way the wrestling world works is someone uses a word that I think they use it bang on, and then it gets used so often that it becomes put it in the bin.
I'm a millennial. I come from the era of hyperbole.
You say the word awesome every 5 minutes.
Absolutely. That's because I'm I come from... We are hyperbolic people. We're a hyperbolic generation. Generational can get in the bin.
Right.
That is a word that I can put in the bin.
I would save it for when Roman comes back. I think that's going to be generational.
Absolutely.
But I do think this pop had the potential to be generational. And the reason it was very good.
Very good.
But I think something that I found quite interesting about watching this show, I missed last week because I was away, and I've not looked at the reviews or the takes, or I've not seen the reaction online. I'm trying this new thing where I don't allow that to pepper how I feel, and instead, if you're gonna call me a shill anyway, I might just be honest about how I feel about certain shows. So I have no idea how people responded to this, but for me, one thing I was thinking about throughout the entire episode was how it felt like the whole story that I have enjoyed has sort of been all up here, rather than it being this situation, which led to that. The thing about a return pop is that it is the ultimate form of catharsis, especially when a character like Rhea Ripley has been present while not being present the whole way through. That's why if and when Roman makes a return, it's going to be this moment of just pure... all the We Want Roman chants have come good, because it has been sort of building to that moment, and they've kind of waited. This one, because Liv has, it's been very sort of clear from day dot. Liv is doing this, Dom is rejecting, and we haven't fully, I think, seen the sort of back and forth that it could be.
I was gonna say, you say it's clear, but like I kept having a lot of people tell me, no, they're working on it together. Like Sat was adamant that they're in it together.
Interesting. I mean, there's maybe I'm misremembering certain parts of the story. That's entirely possible. But I think because I saw in this episode sort of what could have been the whole run out, because I liked it a lot, and I liked it. It put me in mind of Triple H and Trish.
The backstage segment, yeah.
Where
they were kind of parodying.
It was like the same way on a Heatwave. HBK is doing the best of HBK.
Yeah.
Triple H is doing a similar thing here, except it didn't quite feel that way. I would almost have liked for Dominik to have done more of the giving in over the course of this story to make this moment, whereas he's been so against it that. But then, here's what I'm trying to get to. So sorry for my brain being a bit of a mess, but rather than it being the cathartic end point of this chapter, it feels like we're in the middle of a different chapter.
Yeah, I agree with that, because this is the start of the next part of the story,
which would be the start of a new chapter. I'm saying we're in the middle of a chapter.
And maybe you're thinking that because the last couple of weeks I have been on the just get there train, because I feel like this story moved one space forward in week 2 and then has not moved from that space since.
Yeah.
And it's basically just been like treading water, spinning its wheels, waiting for Rhea Ripley to come back. And now that Ripley is back, we can now take the next step in this story. So I agree with you. I think there has not been enough of a growth in this story.
Because I mean, you can go back and look at the material. I have been public about enjoying this storyline, right? So I have liked the various bits that have been on offer. But that's the best way to put it. It's like we did this piece of movement, and then we've been here the whole time, rather than it building.
I think we're in the same position with Chad and the Afro Academy.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing about this era of booking where the story is engaging. I'm intrigued by the characters, but the actual progression, There's something in Bron Breakker actually in this episode where I felt it a little bit.
Okay.
That then came back around, and I was like, okay, fine. But we'll get to there when we get to Bron Breakker. But now I'm sat there, rather than being like, that was my big cathartic Rhea Ripley return, these two are going to either get their comeuppance or Liv Morgan's going to get hers or whatever. I'm now like pivoting to my sort of Liv Finn headcanon.
Yeah.
And especially because Damien was playing kind of a babyface the whole episode here.
Absolutely.
In many different spaces. On the phone to Rhea, I'm going to keep it secret. So
Didn't tell Dom.
Finn had no idea.
Didn't tell Dom, didn't tell the rest of the group.
Yeah.
He was the only person who knew that Rhea was coming back.
And when you combine that with the Money in the Bank, look off into furious distance that Finn gave, I'm now like, where are we going to go?
Yeah, I think so.
That's my little headcanon. I'm like, I'm now interested to see what this lead up to SummerSlam is going to be.
Yeah, I think for me, and I will compare this as well to the Chad Gable Alpha Academy creeds, is that this is not long-term storytelling. It is a story that's taken a long time to tell.
I think, yeah.
Like, we are just sort of like, basically what we're doing is we've just been spinning our wheels waiting for Rhea to come back. But now that Rhea's come back, that's great. We can now just sort of move on and get into the meat of this story and really accelerate forward now. What excites me about this, and like it was so great to see her back because I've missed Rhea Ripley. She's only been gone 3 months. At that point, you may as well just get the belt on her. But she's only been gone 3 months, and I was really excited to see her back. And the thing that really like gets me going, the thing that gets me like Dominik Mysterio in that backstage segment, is that the world title is going to be the focus again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the world title has been the focus of this story. The woman holding the belt has been the focus of this story.
Yes.
And so now, because I was mentioning this to Ollie earlier, and he was like, well, she took that title from Rhea Ripley, and like she as part of the Revenge Tour. And I was like, that's grand. You could have done matches and stories while she had that. She won the belt, then did nothing, started a feud with Zelina Vega, who was, not a credible challenger, beat her, and now we're moving into the next thing. So she's done nothing with the belt. So I'm now ready for the belt to actually feel like a prize that people are fighting for, as opposed to it is just a very interesting character holding that belt as a prop.
Yeah. It is interesting that this Revenge Tour has been, I think, a bit stifled for me. It's not felt so much like a tour as it has been just... Because I like the Revenge Tour thing.
The injuries hold them back.
I don't agree. Because I think you could do all of this stuff. What I mean by not feeling like a tour necessarily is that like she could have it's all felt like a sort of stifled here in this moment thing rather than it being a real long term. You could do this 3 months without Rhea Ripley being on screen, a long term bit by bit chipping away at Dominik Mysterio and the Judgment Day, whereas it has, I think it's because it's felt like it's been fairly stagnant or on the same page. Again, I'm trying to check myself a little bit though, because I have been enjoying it, and B, I don't think we're at the end yet. So maybe I'll judge it when we're at the end.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that the show has been so good for such a long stretch of time, and I do think they deserve a high amount of praise for the ability and the willingness they've shown to pivot, the places where they have put in some really compelling, really deft, really nuanced storytelling. Jerome Punk is an example of something where I apparently am in the minority, but really love.
Hey, dude, you're in the same room as that other minority for that.
There you go. So in this room, we're the majority.
Yeah.
It's so to the point where I'm like, this one has been entertaining, but hasn't fully hit the mark. Feels like I'm slamming it in a way that we might have slammed the dog food. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And it's not quite at that level.
It's just that the barriers have shifted now.
Well, that's exactly it. It's like I got really knocked off of this episode with the Damian Priest and Seth Rollins stuff.
Right.
Really,
interesting.
Boiled my piss because I loved the opening segment so much, and I loved the angle from Money in the Bank so much, and I felt that just undid
it. Made it a bit toothless, yeah.
Yeah, and just like it took away all stakes, all drama, all point to that story, and it really knocked me off. And actually people are like, man, I feel like you're overreacting to that. And it's like, well, that's because everything else is of such a good quality. When something that is so obviously like bad storytelling, it is, you can put more of a microscope on it. I used to say this about AEW. When they only have one women's match on the show, if there is a botch in that match or a mistake in that match, there is more of a spotlight on that because there's just one match. So people will be like, oh, AEW's women's division is botchy. AEW's women's division, they have bad matches. Like, well, yes, because there's only one match. So if there's one match and that one match isn't very good, their whole division is bad. So what I mean? But it's like, if everything else is dead good, which it is in WWE for the most part, if you have something down here that is like, well, that's bad, it feels worse than perhaps it actually is.
Yeah. And I'm inclined often to just sort of look past it. And I think this is the thing that's really interesting in terms of the way we talk about like our job and what we do and the way people respond to that is, for the most part, people, if I'm just watching this week to week, I don't really mind. I was entertained and then I moved on with my life. But because we analyze it and we talk about it and we think about it in that depth, we are going to sort of highlight those things, which basically what I'm trying to get to is why it sounds like I'm whinging about something that I thought was actually quite fun.
Yeah. I thought this was great.
Yeah.
I really, really like this. And I think if you can put your fancy booking hat on now, I'm assuming that Rhea is cleared.
You'd hope she was cleared by SummerSlam.
Yeah. Because the Fightful Select report was they were hopeful that she would be back in the lead up to SummerSlam, released on TV in the lead up to SummerSlam.
Still a month away.
So, exactly. Well, yeah, 3 weeks Saturday. So you've now got time to build Rhea versus Liv for the Women's World Championship at SummerSlam, which kind of we all thought you could do because you can then pay off the Dominik Mysterio, custody of Dominik Mysterio ladder match thing. Maybe do a ladder match between them for the world title. And you can add then the stipulation of what's then for the Judgment Day and splintering off this group. And it's Liv Morgan is the leader with Finn, JD, and Carlito, and Rhea and Dom go over here, and Damien can go over in this direction and stay in that world championship picture. And I think that could be really good because I for the long time, and you can go back and look at the tapes, I've kind of been done with this group for a while now. And my part of the reason why I'm done with this group is because WWE have been breaking them up for 2 years. So I'm ready for them to just S or get off the pot. And I feel now we're S-ing. So, and that's cool. And I think that's really exciting. And I'm genuinely, I think SummerSlam is shaping up to have a wickedly good card.
I think so too.
Let's see what you thought of this in the Ultra Chats, WrestleTalk.com/support. I'm just going to put this out on Front Street now. We've got a bunch of Ultra Chats that we need to get through because we had some that were missed from the Money in the Bank review. And we had some that were missing from yesterday's NXT Heatwave review.
There was a complication with the Streamlabs.
Yeah, we had some technical issues, which means some Ultra Chats didn't come through.
Yeah,
and
we didn't get them.
Yeah, we didn't get them. Basic communication breakdown, we didn't get them. So we've got a lot of Ultra Chats to get through. Some of them are also about Money in the Bank, and some of them are also about NXT Heatwave.
Yes.
So we may have quite a bit of Ultra Chats to get into here. Geeky Arabia says, Rhea's back, let's effing go! Her return has made the Liv angle entirely worth it for me. I do wonder if they might want to turn Dominik face after this, but it's probably not anytime soon.
Yeah, it's really interesting, that part. When you say that this made the Liv angle entirely worth it for me, that's what I mean by when now I feel like we're getting going, because we're actually going to find out what's happening. It doesn't feel like the end of a chapter. I'm on my little chapter metaphor. It feels like this is an inflection point in the middle of a chapter rather than in the middle of a story or the end of a chapter, new chapter break, or whatever. I'm really curious, and I'm really curious about what Dom's role is, because I do think Dom has behaved quite honorably until last night, and that's where I think it's a missed opportunity maybe to have him be chipped away out week to week to week to week to week, because he has consistently since week one been like, I'm not interested.
I just want to play PlayStation.
Had he been interested more and more and more and more and more, and over the course of this episode, that's what was happening. If this, over the course of this episode, had been over the course of several weeks, this moment would have felt even bigger. That's where I feel like it's like, oh, you nearly did it.
Sam here said, before I completely agreed with Luke, thought the Judgment Day were going, but now a small part of me thinks Rhea kicks Priest out of the group for being a bad leader and weak, letting Seth have a rematch. Helps JD and Finn beat Braun, and Liv gets Dom. Yeah, I don't know. I think Rhea, you can't have Rhea be the bad guy though. Like, I think Rhea is going to be like the beloved babyface.
Rhea was already a babyface.
Exactly. Will here said, "Hi guys, very good Raw last night. Been wondering how loud the pop for Rhea's return would be, and it seems the Ottawa crowd seemed to opt for the jet engine. Super awesome to see her back. She just exudes an aura of total megastar. Dom's in for it now." There she has got the aura.
That's it, and like that's why you can't really take her heel, because it just doesn't work at the moment. It was working for a while, but then she was just so good and so enigmatic, and she's got that aura. She's someone that we want to root for, and A, absence makes the heart grow fonder, but B, when you're already fond, it's even fonder. And
she went out on such like sucky terms.
Yeah,
like, you know,
and she was already, and like it was situational babyface because she was going to going to Australia, and then that kind of carried over anyway. So you're at the point where you almost want to have Rhea and Priest break away, and that maybe that's the custody of Dom ladder match. It's Finn versus Priest.
Corey here said, I think Rhea's return was a little underwhelming, although I'm extremely excited to see how it plays out. Coming from down under, Rhea is our mummy. Pogo was here said, Liv versus Rhea has been so-so to me. I think we're just going to get a good match out of it, and that's all I really want out of this. Please, Luke, listen to... It's been censored. That's because I listened to on Monday Night War, the most recent episode that went yesterday. I listened to a band from the year 2000 called Jack Off Jill.
Right.
So that's why it's been censored. Luke, listen to Jack Off Jill on an episode of Monday Night Wars, and I think Clear Hearts, Grey Flowers is my new favourite rock album. Thank you. It's actually been my recommendation for my album club this week. It was my turn.
There you go.
And I was like, guys, I'm going to recommend this album. I've recently rediscovered it, and it is awesome. Some of the language has dated horribly. It did come out in the year 2000. They do say the F word, but it's a really, really good album. Akiko here said, my honest prediction is that Damien loses at SummerSlam and Rhea will cost Dom, leading to Damien and Dom being excommunicated from the rest of the Judgment Day. Here's my prediction for SummerSlam. Liv retains.
I certainly think it would be... Yeah, I mean, we're going to see how it plays out, but that was my first thought.
Yeah. Kuzu here said, with Rhea back now, this story can finally kick into gear. I feel like Dom is going to help Rhea at SummerSlam against Liv and cost her the match, pushing them further apart. Either Dom finds solace with Liv, or she kicks him to the curb, and Dom is on his own.
I would have liked for... I think this is my problem. This is a few people now who said this story can kick into gear. I've enjoyed the segments, but the whole overall narrative has left me feeling a little bit cold. And I think it could have kicked into gear a lot sooner, where this takes it not just into gear, but into overdrive. That's where I'm coming from.
N here said, man, Liv got a clam jam twice in one night. Poor guy's probably a desert down there.
Fucking hell. Sorry.
Daniel, the mouth on you.
Hang on, don't have
Daniel
me for this.
Leighton, the mouth on you, young man. Kiss your mother with that mouth?
No, she lives in Manchester.
In all seriousness, I'm getting this weekend. In all seriousnness, I'm really looking forward to the eventual match, but I do think Liv should win. Aside from Becky, she hasn't had a big win yet. That has been my problem.
Yeah, she hasn't. She's defended it once against Zelina. Is that right? And I do think that's a shame.
Yeah.
And not that the women's world championship is any different from the world championship, where it has to be defended every week. But like, Priest has defended it.
Yeah, but the other question I would say is, why aren't any of the women in the locker room vying for that title?
That's the more key point, and we'll get to people vying for things later on in the show.
Oh man, we've got some divisions put on notice this episode.
Yeah, we bloody well have as well.
So, let's get into the rest of the show. We'll have more of your Ultra Chats, as well as your thoughts on NXT Heatwave and from Money in the Bank later on in the broadcast. We opened with what was my favourite thing on the show. And I think that's also why I hate the segment later on.
Because you liked this bit so
much.
Because
I liked this so much. So CM Punk opened the show. No sling, no arm.
No. Just an arm.
Just an arm. Just a pure t-shirt arm.
Sleeveless vest.
Sleeveless, absolutely. So he looked like, pretty good shape. They are hopeful that he'll be ready for SummerSlam. I think what they're saying now is that, he probably will be, because we're going to do Drew and Punk at SummerSlam. And he gives a shout out to Cena and said, if you're going to be done, I want one last match with you. But I'm here to talk about consequences, because actions have them. And Drew, your actions had consequences. Your actions led to you losing in 5 minutes at WrestleMania. Your actions led to you being screwed on the Raw after Mania. It led to you being screwed at Clash of the Castle. It led to you being screwed at Money in the Bank. Your actions have consequences called CM Punk. But my actions also have consequences. Because of what I did, Drew McIntyre is now indefinitely suspended, and that means I can't have my Drew McIntyre match, and that is what I want. So he's asking Adam Pearce to reinstate Drew so he can have the Drew McIntyre match. Seth Rollins comes out instead. And I thought Rollins was so good here. It was like, you want to talk about actions having consequences? Because of you, because of your actions, I now cannot challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship. That is the only thing that matters to me in this world. I want to be the World Heavyweight Champion. I have to be the World Heavyweight Champion. And because of you, and because of your selfishness, I now no longer can challenge for that belt. And that is your fault. And because of that, I'm now going to make your life a misery. You want that Drew McIntyre match? I'm going to make sure you never get it. Because the second that you're cleared, I'm going to snap your arm again and put you right back on the shelf. I'm going to make sure you never get that match. That is the consequences of your actions. I was like, this is awesome. This is why I loved the Money in the Bank angle.
Yeah.
For everyone who was like, waste of a Money in the Bank cash in, I totally understand that viewpoint. I do. I totally get it. But look at this. Look what we got out of this. This is so good. This is a man who was desperate to win this world title, and now he can't. All because of CM Punk.
Can I just quickly piggyback on the Money in the Bank thing? Because I realized something today
Please
that
do.
I hadn't thought of, which was that I feel like the Money in the Bank briefcase is almost like it just does not fit with Triple H's view of booking and championships. It's almost like it's a complete anathema, because he's someone who believes in that long title reign. He's someone who believes in defending the belt and you know, whether it's Gunther or Bianca or whatever. He's someone who believes in like having a belt on people for a long time and having it mean something. So the quick cash-in plot device to pop a rating, which was very much certainly the latter day Vince way, is not his style of booking or not his style of narrative storytelling. So that's another reason why I'm like interested in how he's chosen instead to use it to further a story outside of the title picture.
Love that.
Yeah.
And it's it's a different use of the briefcase.
And to see it, to your point, immediately come good in this promo,
yeah,
I think was it justified that choice.
And let's just talk about the segment now that really it actually turned me off the show a little bit, because I was into this so much. I have a backstage segment. Seth walks up to Damian Priest, and Damian Priest sends away the rest of the Judgment Day. And Seth says to him, look, you were lucky, but you were also good, and you did beat me, and you were a man of your word. The Judgment Day did not get involved. And as such, I will be a man of my word, and that was our gentleman's agreement. I will not challenge for that belt while you are the champion. And Damian Priest looks at him, and he says, but you know what? After I've beaten Gunther, let's just have a rematch. What was the fucking point of anything then? Why is he mad at CM Punk now?
Yeah, no, it's one of the... Well, why is he mad at CM Punk now? He's allowed to be, because until that moment, that's locked. So why is he mad at CM Punk after the fact?
Now what it does Phil and be like, oh, so actually turns out I've got the title shot, so I've got no beef with you anymore.
Yes, that part I agree with. It's this thing where they're trying to get Priest across as being a man of his word, a good man doing a babyface thing, trying to continue that turn. But it does then essentially do a bit of dentistry on Seth and Punk, where it pulls the teeth out, because now Seth's not got a reason other than being a bit pissed off to really have that venom against Punk, and that's just bad. That's not even like there's not even a bit where I can get my head around. No, I immediately thought, well, that's a shame.
Yeah, I think that is very poor storytelling, because I think it has undercut all of the stakes and drama of this Seth and Punk feud that bore out of a really good angle.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, and I've seen some people already sort of jump to the defense and be like, oh, it's them writing around the botch, or it's them writing around this, or it's them writing around that. I don't think it's any of that. I just think this is just, we have seen from the Gunther Randy match, they will just ignore botches. They will just ignore messed up finishes to matches. I think this is just bad storytelling.
Yeah, there's a way to achieve this without undercutting everything else. I don't know what it is, but that's why I'm not on the payroll.
So yeah, I really, really did not like that.
Yeah, and that's fair. And
I got really knocked off it. I think I said this in the editor's review. I think I got a little bit heated about it, because while I have not seen much of it, I have had a lot of people reach out to me to say, you're getting a lot of heat on Twitter because you liked Money in the Bank. And people have clipped out just like the last 20 seconds of my 12-minute review, where I've sort of spent, last 2,000 words explaining why I like this show, to be like, can't believe you gave the show 5 out of 5 when you just said that you didn't like, there was only 90 minutes of wrestling. And I was like, oh man, people like then sending me like screenshots of being like, they're saying all these things about you, they're saying these things about the people you work with, they're saying about people and I was like, man, it's like, there's no nuance to wrestling discussion anymore.
Yeah.
And it really was winding me up. And I just and then this happened. And because this segment of the show was so good at the start of the show, I was like, oh man, I feel so justified in my liking of this, because all of the making me question whether I should have liked it. And then this happened, I'm like, oh, maybe they were right then. Maybe this is just a bad show and I've just enjoyed bits of it.
The problem is that, first of all, that's just bad toxic
it's bad
online
faith stuff.
behavior.
Yeah.
Like that's number one.
Empty-headed dingleberries is what I call them in the edited review.
But then also, this is the thing that was interesting and good, and I liked it as well. And then this segment, if you didn't like it, at least brought the fire that you want out of this kind of feud. So it did undercut it completely. Like that is exactly what happened. That's not even from a place. I'm saying that as a notably paid shill. So.
Like, people are like, well, he can still be mad at CM Punk. He still did the thing.
Yes, but you've taken away his justification, and this is narrative fiction.
His
so,
justification was, I can't challenge for this belt anymore.
So now
then the champion said, no, you can do it.
And the massive praise that we've had for a lot of this is how justifiable Drew is in hating CM Punk, but how his own arrogance has got in his own way. How justifiable Punk is in sort of taking the piss out of Drew McIntyre for taking his eye off the ball and like I'm gonna be the consequences to your actions that you've avoided for how long. And in this moment we had Seth so justifiably calling our babyface CM Punk, and he was a babyface. And when we finished talking about this segment, I'd like to talk about that because there was a little bit more to the promo that you haven't touched on yet. Seth is really angry at our fan favorite CM Punk, justifiably so. And now he's no longer justifiably angry at CM Punk because the stakes that were put on there are, instead of waiting until Damian Priest loses the belt, you now have to wait until August the 4th.
Yeah.
So that's not stakes then.
There's no drama to this anymore.
Right, and you're no longer justified if you attack CM Punk. You are no longer justified in doing that action.
Yeah.
There is no reason to. And that is bad storytelling.
Do you want to bring up the other point then that you wanted to make?
Yeah, well, the second half of the promo between Punk and Seth is sort of like Punk trying to do the apology thing.
Yeah, I love this.
That's what I wanted to. That's why I was saying you should do the bit.
Yeah,
then I'll talk about it.
Because Punk during the promo was like, I didn't mean, like, honestly, screwing you out of the world title and not being able to challenge for it, that was not my intention. And for that, I am sorry. But it is you, so I'm not that sorry. Which I thought was such a great little CM Punk line. And that's when Seth, when I was like, you're so selfish.
Yeah.
All you do is burn bridges. All you do is make enemies of people because you think the world revolves around CM Punk. I thought this opening segment was so great.
And we talked then about like the magic of CM Punk. We've talked about it since the start of Collision. We've talked about it since All In, since All Out, all of this, shake it all about. And now he's in WWE when he re-signed, all of this business. It's always been about the magic of CM Punk, which is either you love it and you get it or you don't see it. And for me, this encapsulated that. The fact that he is the white-hot babyface of this angle, despite the fact that Drew McIntyre clean won the World Heavyweight title in the middle of the ring and was sort of, it was a heel behavior to get in CM Punk's face. But he's allowed to do that.
That was his arrogance.
He's allowed to do that. He was it was as Wade Barrett rightly went off on one. It was not okay that CM Punk put on a ref and made a mockery of the refereeing industry and interfered in this match in Drew's hometown where he was about to win the belt clean as a whistle. It was entirely reasonable and within the rules for Drew McIntyre to win Money in the Bank, to win a qualifying match, to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match, to win Money in the Bank, insert himself into the match as he did, and go to win the title. Drew McIntyre has behaved 100% within the rules. CM Punk has not. But CM Punk is the massive white-hot babyface. CM Punk comes out here, has a conversation with Seth Rollins where he invokes Seth's daughter to goad him, and then also contextualizes it alongside Larry the dog, which is a dog, not the same thing as your human child. However, to some people, that part is a very important part of their family. So it kind of both is a dick move to bring up Rue, but also then to be like, no, I get it. There's something about finding
this is why I did this. Because
parallel.
You're right. Like when people are like, oh, he was a heel for costing Money in the Bank. It's like, well, we all forget what Drew did to him in Chicago.
Yeah.
And then took away the friendship bracelet and paraded it around on Raw being like, look what I have.
Like that's his family.
I've taken your family from you.
But even within that, explaining that, justifying that, apologizes, which is such a humble thing for a person to do, is to say, I'm sorry, I recognize you, person who I hate, I have accidentally screwed you over, and I do apologize to you. But he couldn't just let it be an apology.
Because he's CM Punk.
Because he's a git.
Yeah.
And that is why CM Punk is magic, because even with all of that, he's still the biggest babyface in this storyline, because we just love him. or a portion of the audience have decided that regardless of what you do, you are the voice of the voiceless. You are the best in the world. You are the one who we will get behind. Because I still, even in July, cannot believe I'm seeing CM Punk in a WWE ring half the time. He comes out and I'm still like, Christ, this is weird.
Weird, glitched into the game.
It really is. And so like, it's all part of the magic. And that's another reason why the undercutting of it in that segment with Priest was really irritating, because here is pure magic from Seth, from Punk, from Drew in absentia. This segment was fantastic.
So good. Hugely undercut later.
Yes.
Dom was telling Adam Pearce to call off the main event. Pearce said, look, it's happening. Liv walked up and said it was her idea and she has to go to some training. And he did say, well, I hope there's chicken tendies there.
I hate tendies.
Yeah,
That's one of those Americanisms where they say words a bit wrong. We call them tenders.
Yeah.
But tendies.
My wife has got this thing about adding Y's onto the end of things that she doesn't like, and the kid has started calling her morning milk Milky.
Get out. Get out.
It's like, I really wish he
in the
would
bin.
do that.
Yeah.
Jey Uso took on Chad Gable. Gable is very angry about all of this. They did talk about the bloodline a lot in this match in reference to Jey Uso, which I thought is interesting because that's likely where he's heading next. Gable gets in the ankle lock, but then the lights start to ka-chunk around him. Jay uses that distraction to hit the spear and wins. The lights ka-chunk again, so he's like, I'm out of here.
Which I hated, by the way.
He absolutely pegs it. He's got no issue with the White Six whatsoever. Abby the Witch was at ringside, so Chad Gable also scarpered, and she delivers another package. This time to actually Pat McAfee, because he was on the show this week.
Yeah. I thought the match was fine. I did not appreciate Jey Uso doing a little yeet before he scampered off, because it made it all seem stupid. And I know that when we talk about the White Six stuff on this show, I have massive pros and a few little, I don't really know what to do with that moments.
That's
but
interesting.
Jey Uso going, whoopsie, I'm off, was so I'm Buttons in Panto that I wanted to scream. Like, it's just get the victory and then be like, I don't like this, and bail, because you're asking for us to believe that this is a threat. And there's Jey Uso getting in one final look down lens yeet. Nah, don't need that part. That was actively detrimental, Jay.
Just because the comments are starting to go, Americans don't call them tendies either. It's just children call them tendies.
Oh, I see. Well, the children should be slapped as well.
Here's my thing with the White Six stuff, because I actually still enjoying the White Six stuff. I particularly on the show, because I thought the promo segment was awesome, and Bo Dallas being in Adam Pearce's
I love
locker room
both of those
was
things so much.
So great. This show is still trying to struggle on how to balance the sports element of it, which is that this is a sports show, and spooky goth stuff. Because they have the spooky goth stuff with the dry ice and everything, and Abby the Witch delivering the package. And then they cut backstage, and Sheamus and Jackie Redmond are watching on the TV, and they both go,
that's weird.
That was weird.
Well, this is why...
Anyway, so I've been here for 15 years.
This is why I'm like... it's like, I really don't know what to do with that. I think that's exactly it. It's the mix between the sports and the spooky, where I'm like, I love with so much passion the footage, and I loved Bo being it. I leant forward with intrigue at that moment. So we'll get to when we talk about the segment in full. The lights coming down, and the dry ice is all such Amdram theater that I'm buying into, and I'll save the actual buying into thing. I'm buying into the White Six, except this bit, and they need to find a way to introduce the White Six to the arena part of the show.
Yeah.
Which is always a thing where it's like, I always feel like what happens in the arena is the wrestling show, and what happens outside is a TV show about the wrestling show. So they need to find a way to introduce the White Six to the arena that doesn't feel hokey,
jarring.
I can believe her being in a mask with a package.
Yeah.
It's just the smoke bit and the lights and the sound effects. That part, I'm like,
absolutely.
It's a hangover from that period, and I get that we're in this transition period between the Bray stuff and the more grounded reality Wyatt Six stuff, but it's now incongruous, if that's the right use of that word.
Me and Tempo were making this point when you were off, and we were like, that to me
you
is
had interesting conversations when I wasn't here.
Yeah,
that's never happened before.
Actually, it was really difficult because you weren't there to add the actual insight into it.
And my professorial, I completely agree.
But we were talking about how like it is it's hard to present this as not a spooky group when you then do spooky dry ice that makes it look like it's a spooky group. Yeah, it is. I think it is a company that is trying to work out what the balance is.
Fortunately, the meat and potatoes of it is real good.
That's exactly it. Like for me, the dry ice is one thing. It's the transitions between the two that I find. This one was just weird because we talked about this before. The whole idea of just being like, Michael Cole's really bad for this. It's been like, well, that was weird. Anyway, let's talk about this next thing. And they literally said, anyway, you've been in WWE for 15 years. Let's talk about this next thing. Later on, you had back-to-back as segments, Dominik Mysterio having an awkward boner and Bo Dallas's promo from the VHS. Those were back. What a weird, like that one I just laughed at because I'm like, what a weird and wacky world WWE is sometimes.
I wonder if there's a difference in when the when you're watching it live, whether or not the ad breaks make a difference, because I often watch it on a perfectly legitimate stream. I would never look at anything naughty, which cuts out the ad breaks, and I wonder if that changes how long things hang in the air. If you get a thing and then it goes to an ad break and then you come back to Dominik Mysterio, I wonder if that changes it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, which makes the show feel longer.
Right.
So anyway, Sheamus was chatting with Jackie to celebrate his 15 years. Bronson Reed walks in and is like, "You're a loser, mate." And it's like, well, let's have a match later. And we got Bronson Reed versus Pete Dunne. Reed got the win. He went to do a second tsunami, but Sheamus came down to save Pete Dunne. The two of them worked together to take Bronson Reed out of the ring. And then Sheamus was like, "Hey, Brawling Brutes, remember this?" And Pete Dunne was like, "No, mate." And off he went. And they were saying on commentary that Pete Dunne is upset because Sheamus bailed on their group.
Is Tyler Bate injured?
That's the report, is that he got, because they went back to NXT for a bit. Yeah. And during that period of time is when Tyler Bate got injured.
Oh, that's a shame. Because first of all, I was like, I thought we were getting a really good Raw tag division with the New Cash Republic, and suddenly you give me Pete Dunne solo. If that's the reason, I appreciate, and this is one thing where, again, we'll give them a little credit, a pivot to an because Ludwig Kaiser is also injured. So we need something for Sheamus. So we've now been able to very smartly pivot into a new approach to something for Sheamus with Pete Dunne's experience as Butch. And I think that's a hallmark of Triple H, taking little things and finding a way to bring them together. Did really good job on that. Pete Dunne, I'm usually not the naysayer on Bronson Reed. In this match, Pete Dunne essentially wrestled himself. Like, he was very much doing all of the... If you've got, like, on Strictly Come Dancing, when they're partnered with...
I do not.
Strictly Come Dancing, Dancing with the Stars, often the pro dancer will be partnered with a celebrity who just has no rhythm whatsoever. So they essentially go, "You stand there and I'll dance around you and no one will notice." That was Pete Dunne and Bronson Reed. I'm usually quite a fan of Bronson Reed, but in this instance, I was like, I can see why people don't really get it.
Well, I think Bronson as well.
This wasn't his finest hour.
Bronson, for the last year and a bit, has just had these sort of stop-start.
He's not been given the material.
He's just had stop-start pushes.
Yes.
Like, he's pushed into a title match, usually in a triple threat, and then he doesn't win, and then he's just off TV. Yeah. And then he comes back and he's just like, "I'm an unstoppable guy." And it's like, no, actually, I think you've been pretty stoppable.
Because he is quite good. It's just in this match, it wasn't there.
We then had the segment with Damian Priest and Seth Rollins, which we've already covered. And then Sammy came out for a promo to say that he is still the champion. Bron Breakker.
We've got Bron Breakker, Bronson Reed, and Braun Strowman, and it really does cause confusion. Even for them.
Bron comes out, and Sammy's like, when you want to come here? You want to say something? And Bron just kept staring a hole in him. So Sammy hands him the microphone. And Bron's like, "You know what? Like, fair play. A lot of guys out in the back there who can, not a lot of them can say that they've beaten me, and really no reason why I should get another title shot, so I guess I'll just go back to the line, but then I've got another plan." Boom! Charges at him, hits the spear. Bron's awesome. Absolutely loved it. I'm so glad that this came after the Damian Priest Seth Rollins segment, because I was so angry, and I was like, "Oh no, good, Bron's here. The show is saved." And he literally speared Sammy out of his shoe. Lost a shoe through this spear. He's laying Sammy out. Dragunov came down for the save. That set up a match between Dragunov and Bron Breakker that had DQ written all over it.
So this was the part where I was a little bit like, "Oh, more of this? Okay." Which was the bit where they had the nice overhead shot of Bron running around to give another spear, which is what brought out Dragunov. I was like, I've seen that like loads. It's like diminishing returns. It was really sick that first time. It was still quite sick the second time. And now I've seen it so many times that I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's still impressive, but I keep seeing it. I'd like something else. I then got something else. So I recant that critique. But it's interesting when we talk about like casual viewers, because I imagine for your casual viewer who isn't watching every week or does watch week to week, they're probably quite happy with seeing that shot again.
Yeah, great.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, we used to say this about like Raw in 2000. Every week has Too Cool and Rikishi do the dance.
And the 5-second pose. Yes, like, this is that.
Every single show has a 2-minute tag team match that features Too Cool or a singles match featuring Rikishi, but the end of it is Too Cool and Rikishi do the dance.
Yeah.
Because it's for some people who aren't watching it for week to week, but more importantly, it's for the building that you're going to, because you're going to a new town every week who want to see Too Cool and Rikishi do the dance.
I think my problem, it's not a problem as much as it is just a flag, which is that like if you do this all the time, that felt so intense and special to begin with. It now feels like one of his moves, and when it becomes part of a move set, it feels less impactful. Is my thing to flag, not to say it was bad.
Still, I'm going to hold it up as one of like my big positive things about the show, because I absolutely loved it, because our following match was the Judgment Day versus Braun Strowman and the Awesome Truth.
It certainly was. That.
Yeah. Carlito apparently isn't part of the Judgment Day.
Yeah. He doesn't wear purple, so he's not.
I just thought he was in the group.
Undertaker is, because he wears purple. I saw it on the One Dead Man show.
I thought he was in the group, and then he came out. He got different introduction, and then they were like, "Oh, Carlito's not part of the group." And I was like,
"No, he's just their
with
mate
them all the time."
Yeah, it's just their mate. It's just that, like in the same way that JD McDonough wasn't officially part of the group for a while.
I don't know, man. Feels like he's part of the group.
The Judgment Day has a established and long application process. Okay, we've seen it for years.
Truth does the John Cena routine specifically to Carlito as to get revenge, because Carlito did want to get Cena stabbed by Jesus.
He did, yeah.
So he was looking to get some revenge on him for that. Big build to the Braun hot tag. Truth and Braun did the train gimmick. This is one of those moments where
that was quite funny.
It's not for me, but the crowd was super into it.
I giggled, especially JD McDonough running away.
And then Braun chases off JD. Truth gets distracted, and Finn pins him. And then Miz looks despondent, which means maybe we're seeing the end of the Awesome Truth.
Yeah, but you said that last week. I thought we were getting the end of the Awesome Truth the night after WrestleMania, but we're still here.
Still here.
It's July.
The Awesome Truth. Yeah, this was not for me, but the crowd really liked it.
Yes, they did. They ate it up.
So
in fact,
that is a big tick in the success column.
Yeah.
Adam Pearce chatted with CM Punk backstage and said, "Look, I'll call Drew. I'll set up a meeting with him next week, but you have to promise me you will not come to the building. You will go home to Chicago. You will stay with your dog, and you will stay there until you are cleared, and then you can come back." Do you think he comes back next week?
Yes.
Yeah. I think he might do too. Consequences of your own actions. This is when we had the moment where Liv and Dom were chatting. Dom just wanted to play PlayStation, but Liv wanted to peg him. So she put his leg over her shoulder.
I can't wait for this storyline to be over.
To stretch him out, which I think is important when you're getting into those sorts of positions, to stretch them out. And the judge... Oh no, Dan, come back. The Judgment Day walked in, and they're proper like American Pie, sort of like going around the corner of him.
That bit was funny.
It actually really was.
It
was really funny. Particularly Carlito.
Oh my god!
You want to talk about generational?
Yeah.
Like this is the best run of any career he's had in WWE.
Carlito signed a lucrative contract to come here and do punchlines and leave.
Well, I know, just say things are cool.
Yeah,
and he just went, "That's cool."
Well, he also did. He did. It's not just what he said.
I know. So he had this great. I think he's so funny in this role. Liv leaves, and Dom's like, "Look, I'm trying to sort this out." And Pre says to him, "Dom, it's not that hard." And Carlito says, "I don't know. It looks pretty hard to me."
He was pointing at his penis.
He was pointing at his knob because he had a little boner.
Dominik Mysterio had received an erection
from
the pre-match stretching.
Probably not a full one. Probably just a semi. But either way, it was there and it was protruding.
Puerile.
And they had a little American Pie giggle at it.
They did, yes.
And I enjoyed this.
This was the Trish segment that I really enjoyed as well. So yeah,
and
fine.
Then, emotional whiplash. He's then going to Bo Dallas to It's such a weird show.
Yeah. Raw is weird.
It's a weird show.
What we do is odd.
Love it.
We should all think about that.
I love how much it's a weird, wacky world. Because you go from awkward boner to Bo Dallas doing this such good, deep psychological torture storytelling, kind of talking about the family and that he's given this family a purpose. Each of them getting their own hero shot as well to kind of like reintroduce them because they haven't really been
with their masks off.
Yeah, because keep that because they haven't really been much on TV since. Like it's really just been Bo and Abby the Witch, and he's like, I've got to set these captives free. And he has this moment where he says, do you think we are sick? And they says, yes, I do. Then sick is what we will be. But even explaining what the Wyatt Sick name is.
Yeah.
Oh, this was really, really cool.
It was really well put together. I loved how every now and again it was the profile shot of Bo and then it just got the howdy thing, because this is where I come back to what we were talking about with this weird mix of the fiction and as in within the ring and the stuff outside of the ring, because I love that howdy mask, this new one with the dreads, and like I love all of the mask work and all of the character stuff, and I can so buy into. I was reading a book at the minute which has a segment. Thank you. Which has a segment. It wasn't Becky Lynch's for a change. It has a segment in it about like maypole dancing, and I think of the Wicker Man, and I think of these grand traditions that we have, that midsummer kind of thing, where you buy into the pageantry of it all and the face painting and all of that stuff, and so I can fully believe these people finding their communal experience together, choosing to represent themselves through masks, how they want to go about doing their thing. I fully buy the group. And this is another example of it and confirming that. And I don't mind if they're wearing masks, especially now that we've seen them with mask on and with mask off. Yeah. It makes it feel even more threatening almost. It's just finding the way to have them arrive in the arena without needing to have a stagehand fill the ring with dry ice first.
Almost like, and I'm not saying these groups are comparable, Sanity.
Yes.
Sanity were a group of anarchists.
Yeah.
But they were not a spooky group of anarchists.
Right.
But they were presented like they had the masks and they had the music and they had that sort of presentation. But they were not dry ice filling the ring.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I think they're gonna get there at some point, and I think what followed was an example of them getting there.
Yes, because this popped me huge. Because Chad Gable is talking to Adam Pearce, and he's like, "Dude, you need to sort this out because they're coming after me. Do something about this." And Adam Pearce was like, "Maybe this is your own fault." And Adam Pearce was like, "That's so typical of you." And off he goes. And Adam Pearce opens up his office door, and Bo Dallas is sitting in his office, ready for his meeting. So it looks up to him. And Adam Pearce walks in, and he closes the door. And I was like, I have to see next week's show because I want to see what the next step of this is, because this is a really interesting step in this story.
When we talk about like the idea of this group of like, do you remember when they signed Retribution to contracts?
Yeah,
and it was like, why have you done that?
Yeah,
this was quite easy. You just have them arrested because they're not only are they like breaking your building, they're also breaking lockdown rules. So there were several reasons that you could have had Retribution arrested. But in this context, it's one of those really interesting things of like the door opens and I was half expecting to see a message or like a QR code or
another package.
A package. Perhaps it was in disarray. Perhaps there was a red rum kind of thing. And instead what there is a man in just clothes.
It's not Uncle Howdy.
It's just Bo Dallas.
It's just Bo Dallas.
And he's not necessarily pulling any particular expression. Like, he's just sort of...
Just look like a normal guy.
A human being in the room. And I was like, that is... Of all the things I expected to see, that was the last thing. And that was the most compelling thing that it could have been.
100%.
Yeah. Do
you think he has a match at SummerSlam?
I think it would be a very neat choice. It would be a very... because, The Fiend having his debut match at SummerSlam... there's a lot of reasons for it. Yeah, I think you could. And I think probably with Chad.
Yeah, I would say if you're going to do the match, it's with Chad. So you do Bo versus Chad as the SummerSlam match.
Yeah.
Or do you do, because we'll talk about
and for me, I would have Bo beat Chad and then Chad removed from the story. Because I think it's almost I'm still in the let it play out, find out where it goes moment. But there's a little part of me that's like, I wonder if the Chad. I suppose we'll get to the Chad Alpha thing with.
Let's talk about it now, because like there's something like behind
the.
Because later in the show, Chad is seen talking again with the Creeds. That is another one of those.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to get there. Like, get there already.
And that's why I'm like, okay, so maybe it's after that, the Wyatts sort of move on, and that means Chad can go back to his thing, because it almost feels like Chad and the Wyatts have arrived at each other's story in a good time for the Wyatts, but a weird time for Chad. And I almost want to extricate him from it to allow. Do you know what?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, you could either do Chad and Bo as a singles match, or do a multi-man match with Chad and his new Alpha Academy versus the Wyatt Six as a group. It does mean you have to beat one of these two new groups, though.
That's what I mean, and that's why I'm thinking if Chad loses a singles match at SummerSlam and then is removed from the Wyatt Six storyline because they've shown him and now he needs his new protection, and the Alpha Academy come along, like the original Alpha Academy, on like, okay, we've had our time to think, and now like we'd like to be there for you in this trying time, and he's like, get to fuck, I've got these new guys.
I've already replaced you.
Yeah, and then we can go back to what that storyline was, and this was a really good choice to introduce and to get us from A to B, like kind of thing. I'm so intrigued by this choice.
Me too.
And I really have to commend them.
Loved this. Damage Control cut a promo saying that they're going to show what they are capable of. They have lost control, but tonight they're going to get it back.
I'm sure they are.
We then got Dragunov versus Bron Breakker, and I think anyone could have watched this match and predicted the finish of this, which was DQ. The crowd were into this more than most of the wrestling that was on the show, which I'm very appreciative of. And Bron just effed his share right into Dragunov's face to cause the DQ. Sammy ran down for a brawl, but Bron stood tall.
The thing about Bron Breakker DQ is it's going to be cool. Like, it's going to be, with that Sheamus one that I loved a couple of weeks ago, this one was, like, great. I just like seeing him. Who was it that did it? I think it was Kofi ages ago, darted. It was with Kaiser as well. I just like a chair getting thrown at someone's head.
Yeah, I think
it's quite funny.
It's great. It's just these DQs.
You hate them. But I do hate them. There was only this one.
Yeah, no, but it's one per show, Dan.
Yeah, they're allowed one per show.
It's one every single week.
We've established the one per show rule.
And it's always in Bron matches. So now I'm being conditioned to not get excited for Bron matches, because they're not going to have finishes.
I suppose.
We then had a video promo for Priest.
The match was good, though.
Match was very good.
Yeah.
It's very good. I don't care about it because I've already been conditioned to not get excited for it. Priest cut a video promo saying that, oh yeah, I'm a controversial champion because I haven't pinned anyone clean. Name me a champion that does pin people clean. I'm like, well, that's a damning indictment of WWE's creative, isn't it? He challenges Gunther to show up on Raw next week. Gunther had a video promo later where he said that he's going to win at SummerSlam, which I fully expect he will do. We then got a trailer for that Mania documentary. We got a recap of the New Day and Final Testament feud where they announced that Kofi is injured, and then the Final Testament cut a promo about that, saying that, yeah, he's injured. Yeah. And they're sort of asking Woods to step up.
Karrion Kross versus John Cena. It's going to be a match. John Cena was in this promo, and that's not an accident.
Was he really?
Yeah. They made a point, because the point of the promo was Karrion Kross is annoyed on behalf of Xavier Woods that the sort of quote-unquote old guard won't allow for other people to get opportunities, including but not limited to Kofi Kingston, who has already had his time, been a world champion. It's your turn, Xavier Woods. This is kind of his MO. But within that was a feature of John Cena. Yeah. I would expect a John Cena versus Karrion Kross match, and that'll be the Baron Corbin match of Kurt Angle's retirement.
The final one.
Yeah, the final testament.
I mean, that's what you want to do with the John Cena retirement tour, isn't it? Karrion Kross.
There you go, Karrion Kross. Well, because, maybe that's the 8th world champion he pins.
Well, I mean,
the 8th wonder of the world. There's stuff you can do with it.
And you could also have John Cena beat all of the group by himself. That's a very John Cena thing to do.
He'll get both AOP on his shoulder for double AA.
Absolutely.
And then Paul Ellering for good measure.
Yeah. In between all this, by the way, so before that Damian Priest promo, Damage Control made their entrance.
Yes.
So they made their entrance. Then we got the Priest promo, the trailer, the recap, and the Final Testament promo, and commercial breaks in there. And then we got the entrance for the other team, which was Lyra and the Party Girls. So our only women's match on the show. Do better. And the crowd were not into it. But then they did a triple suplex, and the crowd all of a sudden woke up.
Oh, there's a double suplex. Michael Cole said so.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Even though there was.
Yeah, it was double.
Yeah,
no, it was double suplex.
Oh, okay. Well, I the man in orthopedic shoes. I stand corrected.
Yeah. Because each individual person was only suplexing 2 people, you see, so it was a double suplex for them. That's Steiner math. That's Steiner math. Put it on a t-shirt.
And then everyone did moves and Damage Control won, but they couldn't celebrate for long because we got a new group in Zoe Stark, Shayna Baszler, and Sonya Deville attacked them after the match. Stark blamed Io for costing her Money in the Bank, which I thought that's good little good reason. That's good.
That was a great spot from the pair of them.
Yeah, and then later on, like a couple of segments later, they had an interview where you'll never believe this. They've put the division on notice.
People can just say shit.
Daniel, that is the third time.
Look, the floodgates are open.
You have had a potty mouth all show. I have been family friendly.
That's absolutely untrue.
I have been keeping this PG.
That is untrue. You said about 3 F words already. I'm just joining in.
I have been PG as it comes.
That's not true. People have just said stuff.
You get one F-bomb for a 12A. And I've had my one F-bomb. Not you though. 15 over here.
Yeah, I'm R-rated. People just say things, and it doesn't mean anything. Like they're just running things. Here's the thing: I really liked the run-in, as in I didn't necessarily love the fact that it was like a heel trio having a go at another heel trio who I've struggled to care about, despite the fact that individually I really rate every single person in the ring. I liked the moves that they were doing. I just like people battering people, and I like Shayna Baszler hitting knee strikes. I like Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler working together. I like Sonya Deville. I was really glad for her to be back doing stuff and feeling important. Like I really liked it, all of it, and I really feel like there needs to be the way you build a division is just having people come out and having competitive matches with each other and winning and losing and getting a run of momentum. Because if all it takes to get a title shot is to stand backstage and say I'm putting the division on notice, why do we bother having matches?
Well, I mean, it's the women's tag titles.
Don't you just say that?
Well, they are. It's like the men's tag titles.
I know.
You just fight for them.
I know, but that's not the attitude that we should be encouraging in them. We should be holding them to account. We are, after all, the voices of the wrestling community. Now,
if they listened to us, they wouldn't have shut down our parties.
I just feel like it's like I like them. I like this. I want these people to have opportunities. It's not enough for them to just be telling me they're running the show because they just so demonstrably aren't. How am I supposed to believe in you?
Well, here's the thing that made me laugh. The witches walked up to them. I legit forgot they were the tag champions. They're the tag, but I was like, oh yeah, they are the tag champions, aren't they?
And then, but also it's like threes and threes. Just get out. Just let them wrestle. Just let them wrestle because they always deliver.
And then we had the main event. I gave this a joke score in my review. I gave it 7 3/4 out of 5 because there were things I liked on it, but things that I absolutely hated. So of course I gave it more than 5 out of 5.
You're a troll.
I was.
You were being a little troll.
Absolutely did it to troll people who really care about arbitrary scores.
Yeah. Again, I'm trying to think of it in terms of like if you're just watching the show and not thinking too hard about it, probably quite enjoyed yourself. It certainly was a light years above a good 10-year run there.
Well, it's also, I think it's better than the post-Mania slump.
Yes.
With the post-Mania slump where everything was just broadly fine and every show was just various shades of broadly fine. There are interesting things to talk about now. Like you can come out of these shows and be like, that's a news match. Like you can come out of these shows and be like, there are 4 things you could leave with as a top topic. There were weeks during the post-Mania slump where you would struggle to find one.
What do you want to leave with today?
Yeah, and like now you're coming out, it's like, man, that's a talking point, that's a talking point, that's a talking point, and you can get, and I think that's a positive. That's why the show feels so much better now. Was this a killer episode of the show? No, if I was to give it a real score, I probably would have done 3, because it was a fine episode, but man, it was so much better than some of the stuff we got in that post-Mania era. So yeah, let us know. We've got a live poll going up now. You can give it thumbs up, thumbs down,
just
or thumbs
give me a little
middle.
breaking news while you're doing this part.
Please do.
Apparently, Sports Illustrated is reporting that ESPN's Joe Tessitore is set to join WWE as a play-by-play announcer. He's announced college football and boxing prior to this. They specifically say it's unknown which show he'll be joining later this summer. That is interesting.
Is it?
Well, if he's a play-by-play announcer,
I suppose who's he going to replace?
That's the question. You've got Michael Cole, you've got Corey Graves, who's been doing the job quite well, I think.
It's probably going to be Vic Joseph because you're trying to train him to then go up to the main roster.
WWE Speed.
Finally. If you are one of our Patreon pledge hammers over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk, you can get your name read out on the show. You can also get a bonus load of content over there, like WrestleTalk Extra, brand new episodes of Survival Series, and so much more. If you're one of our $25 and above Patreon pledge hammers, you get your name read out on the show, like these fine folk: the Cleaner Kenny Shah,
Nathan the Street Racing Prophet Ford,
the British Bulldog Philip Boy J. Smith Jr.,
he can last Sean for longer than you in the ring,
Starbucks Stephen Costa,
Hitman Malcolm,
Burley Rob Burwell,
he ran Aaron Hanrahan,
he brings the fear Amir Jones,
Apocalypse Now,
Andrew Gifford the Big Red Dog,
and Keeper of the Mask Mysteries, Angie.
That is your Hall of Fame class for the 9th of July 2024. Right, let's get into
it's another white guy with a beard who looks the same as all the other men they've hired.
Does he want to come and sign for WrestleTalk?
Yeah, could do.
It's our bread and butter. King Lamb here said, I thought this was a good show, 4 out of 5. I just finished the post show. I think Sammy might turn heel before the end of the year. No, let's not do that. My spidey senses are tingling. Also just became a Patreon recently, and I'm enjoying the breakup of the Shield series. Jam that jam. Thank you very much. This is from the Money in the Bank.
Yes, these are
about the post show. They're talking about the Money in the Bank post show. Kevin here said,
not Raw Talk.
Is that still on?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. Kevin here said, the moment when Seth realized Punk screwed him over makes this all worthwhile for me. 4 out of 5 show. Good action. Great debut for Fatu. I was expecting a little bit more from the main event, maybe a Jimmy return or something, but good show overall. I was thinking about this, actually.
Were you?
I was. This idea that I saw quite a few people say this about the main event. It shouldn't have been the main event because it didn't have a Roman return, or as Kevin just said then, I was expecting more from it in terms of a Jimmy return. I saw it as comments as well to be like, why was that the main event? When people were having to go at me for my score in that. The WWE champion was pinned. Like, that's a big deal, isn't it?
But it's what it is. But I think some people are still getting used to the fact that we have a WWE champion who's on the television show.
And he got pinned. That's a huge deal.
It is a big deal.
Because it sets up the WWE Championship match for SummerSlam.
And what I mean by that is not that Cody isn't worthy of the belt or his run isn't working before anyone tries to glean that from what I said. Cody was the champ without the belt for so long that now he's just the champ with the belt. It feels like a continuation of that Cody being so, big deal. The champion was pinned. Like that should be the end of the show.
He's been pinned, 3 times since he's come back to WWE?
Pretty much.
Like, that's...
Roman,
Drew,
and now Solo.
Yeah. That's a huge deal.
Big deal.
I think that is more of a damning indictment of Solo.
Yeah, Bloodline 2.0 not being as big of a deal. Yeah.
Graf here said, John is the whole reason I'm a fan. Speaking of Cena, I'm guessing. My dad putting it on random one day to see goofy Cena with his colourful shirts and jorts. I know his character isn't spotless, but I cannot deny the impact the man has had on me. He's forever my GOAT and my number one.
Yeah.
Sasha's heel said, Naomi had her moment 10 years ago. She's on a Charlotte... This was in reference because we had that conversation about Naomi not... some people are arguing that she's not giving enough chances, and there are some people who think that it's a race thing. There are some people who think it's a reason over here. She's not given the credits that she deserves. And one of the points you made was she has been a world champion. Like, it's not that they have not given her chances. And the argument here is Naomi had her moment 10 years ago. She's on a Charlotte level, yet Charlotte gets 300 title reigns. Also, you guys are the voices of the wrestling culture. I would argue if the WWE really did want to listen to what we had to say, they would not hate her so much.
I also feel like Charlotte is such an interesting person to bring up in this conversation about women being given opportunities here and there, because Charlotte was given a bajillion different title reigns, and for a great view on that, go and find the video. Is Charlotte Actually Good by Luke Owen.
Thank you.
It's an interesting conversation and a nuanced conversation to talk about, racism and colorism and how, Naomi is a dark-skinned black woman, maybe faces a different kind of prejudice to lighter-skinned black women like a Bianca, like a Jade. It's a very complicated conversation, and I just don't actually think that putting comments like this here is the way to have that conversation. Maybe I'm wrong in policing it in that way. It's not my intent.
Well, dude, I mean, I made the point on the Money in the Bank review, so I'll just echo it here for those of you who didn't see it. Just look at this show. There was one women's match.
Right.
This is not a Naomi thing.
Yes.
This is a division-wide
problem. It is a problem. Yeah. To use the word, it is a problem with the way they're booked. I would also say I'm intrigued to see whether or not, if they actually commit to booking the women's division, what's going to come of Naomi and Bayley, because their relationship has been really interesting to me, and I'd like to see it develop.
These are from yesterday's NXT Heatwave review. Will here said, "Hey guys, have to say the Heatwave was better than Money in the Bank. The Fatal 4-Way actually kind of ruled, and I love the Backlash callback. Not sure how I feel about Paige being champion. Just gonna have to wait to see what happens. Also, Javon Evans has the makings of a star."
Agreed on all fronts.
Nick Smith said, "It's a shame that WWE keeps pushing those ex-AEW guys instead of building new stars. Lol."
Well, excuse me, but Swerve is champion over in AEW at the moment, actually.
Kendall Happy on here said, "I just want to give Kalani and Soul their flowers. I think that the Women's North American Championship will become the women's workhorse title, and in a few years will be considered the most prestigious women's title. I know it's early, but it's just a hunch."
It's great for it to be that. This is the opportunity thing where we're talking about with giving the women opportunities. It's not about necessarily that they need more titles, but women in NXT generally do get more opportunities, and they do have a very big roster of women. It's giving them something else to get reps in a title match at a big stakes in a pay-per-view. That is what that breeding ground should be. Hopefully more opportunities on the main roster like this one, because they did a good job.
Also, Rock pinned Cody. That's another one of them.
Oh, we did at WrestleMania.
Yeah. And I think
that's 4.
And I think Brock might have tapped him out. Did he pass out?
Oh, I think he... Oh,
did he pin him or did
didn't
he
pin
pass
him.
out? Yeah.
Didn't pin him. He hurt it because it was the Kimura Locky on his broken arm that was healed next week.
So either way, it's like 4.
Either way, the WWE champion getting pinned on pay-per-view is a big deal. It was a big deal last year when it happened to Roman. It's a tradition.
Mayor of Painesville says, "Hello, Tempest. Hello, other Dan. Hope you're doing well. Love the new intro. I want to congratulate you on the excellent Money in the Bank review. It was really great. I'm so happy for Ethan Page. He was a real hidden gem in wrestling, and I'm glad he's finally got gold." Joe Carefully here said, "WWE hates Canada. Good guys lose both main events, and their heel wins Money in the Bank, as well as a small child holding the NXT Women's Championship that Muscle Mama, Jordan, and MMA Fighter. DC are the ultimate American babyface against the Canucks." Matt here said, "I think it's a big statement to put it on Ethan Page, as he only signed last month when the company in 4 matches into his run is champion. I think I will let it play out."
It is a big statement, and it is going to be interesting.
T Dollar here said, "Morning lads, amazing show last night. Feel like we might be heading back to NXT beating main roster shows in quality. Also, can anyone help Sean Spears? I think I could kick out of the C4 after how much it was kicked out of last night. Much love."
I felt very strongly after watching that Heatwave that it was like, well, this feels like back in the day, NXT.
That's right. NXT always was better than
it's
the
just
main
on this
roster
side.
shows.
Triple H is on the main roster now. I don't think any of us expected that.
Blake Whitehouse here said, "When NXT moves to the CW channel in as many US homes as Fox, there's a good chance they could finally start treating NXT like a third brand. Should they start having Rumble and Money in the Bank challengers go for NXT championships? It has happened before."
I think it has happened before. I think where I would caution against that is that one of the things that we were so positive about on Heatwave last night was that it is a really... Obafemi and Sol Ruka were 2 examples of what a developmental division should be doing.
Absolutely.
And Trick Williams, as over as he is, as fantastic as he is, isn't there yet. So, third brand is one thing, but keeping it, in that kind of developmental thing, the content of the show suits to the CW really, really well. I think keep it in that developmental.
I think you should be a developmental brand.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it needs to be elevated more than it is.
No,
because it should be a developmental brand.
I think it is what it is. Do you know what I mean? It's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, unless of course TNA just becomes their developmental brand.
Well, there is that.
MJam here said, "First time Ultra Chatter. I was there last night. My first ever wrestling show. I had such a good time. The show was great. Crowd was great. Lots of fun. One love, guys. Jam that jam." Space Viking here says, "NXT and women's wrestling go together like peanut butter and jelly," or jam if you're in the UK. "I get the feeling that Ricky Starks is going to be a generational NXT talent if he ever jumps. NXT is so back."
I love that it's like now, like Triple H, we were all like, oh my God, I can't wait for Triple H to get the book. And now Triple H has the book. And it's like, oh my God, I can't wait for Shawn Michaels to get the book. I can't wait for the moment where Shawn Michaels is booking a tepid Money in the Bank pay-per-view and CM Punk's NXT is on fire. I can't wait for that.
Vincent here said, "When Cena said, 'I want to talk about Canadians during Money in the Bank,' I thought, wait, are we going to get an anti-Canada heel promo? Also, it was fun watching so many Dom Live Judgment Day 3-count predictions come true in a single segment." I did say that was my big prediction for Clash of the Castle for my 3-count one. They're going to do an awkward bonus segment.
Yeah.
And they did. Geek of Arabia here said, Braun versus Ilya being match of the night, followed by Reed versus Dunn. Bo Dallas showing up in Pierce's office has me intrigued. The video was good too. Everything else was good enough. Solid episode, 4 out of 5.
That's fair assessment.
Sam here said, I was okay with them taking their time with the Wyatt 6 QR codes. I figured they'd debut when they were ready, but now they're here, and while I love the Bo interviews in that part of the story, I'd wish they'd stop with the spookums and move forward with chat. Matt here said, the show has me genuinely excited for both Raw and SummerSlam. The Rhea angle was great, and I do think in the fall we will get a series between Rhea, Priest, and Dom fighting JD, Finn, and Liv. Last year, SummerSlam had 8 matches, and I think this year's SummerSlam will as well. SummerSlam is in Cleveland, Ohio, which is the hometown of Logan Paul and Johnny Gargano, so I expect those two to have matches on the show. I think the card for SummerSlam is probably Priest versus Gunther, Nia versus Bayley, Cody versus Solo, Rhea versus Liv, Punk versus Drew, with Seth as the special enforcer, Zayn versus Breaker versus Dragunov, LA Knight versus Logan Paul, DIY versus the Street Profits. One thing I really have appreciated about the new regime is how Precious carries over with characters, the Brawling Brutes. Last year, both Sheamus and Ridge Holland walked out on Pete Dunne, ending towards the Brutes, and I'm so glad they even though him and Sheamus are baby faces, he can't forgive Sheamus. Sucks Bate injured, glad that they have a plan for Dunne in the meantime.
Mm-hmm.
Dev here said, wouldn't say that Punk and Rollins is dead. He still got in his business and cost him the world title. Wouldn't be much of a bet if what we're expecting comes to pass and Gunther wins at SummerSlam. Also, it furthers what they've been teasing for weeks, babyface Priest. Yeah, but Punk, like, his whole anger at him was because he can't challenge for the world title now. Not that he cost him the world title. It's that he can't now challenge for the title.
And he can now challenge for the
world title. And now he can. So while he can be angry,
whether or not Gunther wins.
Yeah, so while
because back then it was I can't challenge for the world title, and there's a chance that when I can challenge for the world title, that world champion is going to be Gunther, and now it's like, oh, I can challenge for it any time, and if Priest retains, well, I had him basically pinned, and the ref made a boo boo. So
that's the thing. Is like he can still be angry at Punk for screwing with his match,
but the venom is not there.
The venom is not there for it anymore. Kuzlosopy said, I understand not liking the end of the Seth Damien promo because, Luke, you are right. It does mess with Seth's motivation. I did like the beginning, though, and it seemed like WWE telling us to give Priest a break for the Money in the Bank botch. I don't think it's anything to do with the Money in the Bank.
I don't think it is either, because we've been seeing Priest be a more honorable guy. Like, even the virtue of the fact that he was like, yeah, all right, I'll put a judgment down the line. Like, that's an honorable thing to do.
Anonymous here said, Priest offering Seth a rematch doesn't invalidate the Punk angle. Had there be started at Money in the Bank, it would, but Seth has been wanting Punk out of his life entirely since his return. Seth sees this as a referendum on Punk's character, not just about the title. Wee Legan here said, I think Drew has done more for the title clamoring, than Priest could ever have done holding it. Also, Rhea coming back with 100% clammed that
I just can't with you all. Okay?
The reason why that got me is a little peek behind the curtain. Our moderators tend to highlight things. If it's just like, just so you know, lads, this might be a little...
There's something a bit spicy.
There's something a bit spicy here. There's something a little bit R-rated in this. They didn't highlight that. So it just really took me by surprise.
Ron Burgundy's the ever-living crap out of these. He really just reads them.
Pause. Some guy, I'm interested in Jay's direction at the moment. I feel like Roman needs to return soon, given the history between Roman and Jay. I feel like we need months of story before Jay can side with Roman for a possible War Games match. What do you think? Wow, I would. My guess is Roman comes back at SummerSlam, and you have then got those months between August and November to tell Jay getting back on Roman's side before you get to War Games.
It is 3 months. I was thinking about this on the way, because I was thinking, how do you have Roman come back at SummerSlam? And there's something in maybe Jimmy coming back to be in Solo's like gang at SummerSlam. How does Roman return at SummerSlam? Because I don't think Solo's winning the belt.
No.
So if Cody beats Solo, what is it that brings Roman? What is it that brings Roman out? And there's a little part of me that's like, well, if Solo starts beating up Jimmy, maybe Roman comes out at that point. So I don't know. That's how I do. And then you would begin that process of healing.
Good Sports Review said, guys, your content inspired me to pursue a career in content creation. I've recently just reached 1,500 subs, so thank you for the inspiration. That is awesome.
Yeah, well done.
Congratulations. The Fiend debuted at SummerSlam. Bray Wyatt's first match was at SummerSlam, so it seems perfect for Sick Bo to do
That's
the
what
same.
I thought, yeah.
Absolutely. Rafael Garcia said, I don't feel inspired by plot holes. I thought Shayna was adamant about not including Sonya. Braun was the legal man when R-Truth got pinned, and there was a lack of Canadian destroyers. However, Petey Williams was on the show, so 5 out of 5 up the mother. Victoria said, OMG, I'm so glad I wasn't the only one frustrated by the Priest Rollins stakes being walked back. Lazy way to turn Priest face and bodes poorly for future stakes. I'm just hoping Mummy's return means that the women's division is back in full swing. Been a tad slow.
Yeah, like why couldn't, for instance, Shayna and or Zoe have been, well, Zoe was in Money in the Bank, but why couldn't Shayna have been like angling for a shot at the championship, Sonya getting in her ear and saying, you should be. It's not even necessarily that they'd have to challenge for it. None of them seem interested.
Yeah. That's why Zelina Vega was like, well, I mean, I've not won a match in a year, but I'll have a go. Sky here said, was never the biggest fan of Rhea, so this didn't do much for me, but I'm happy that we can finally move forward. My favourite part of this entire storyline is Carlito. The Wyatt video was really cool. I'm so interested in what happened with Pierce. Mary Painesville said, hello, Luke. Hello, Dan. You're both fantastic. Really, you do. Sending our most positive vibes towards you. He set a positive standards for how you do reviews. I feel like WWE is beginning to fall back into old habits. Example, NXT call-ups struggling.
I don't think I'd fully agree with that.
I don't feel like there are some bad habits. Pacing is certainly one of them, which we've highlighted. And the reliance on DQs, while not as egregious as previously when you'd have like 4 per show, having 1 a week or 1 per show, I think is a bad habit to get into.
Yeah.
Because that is a slippery slope. Fred the Good Son said, okay, Luke, Dan, or Pete, which one of you guys gave Dom a pre-match physio?
I don't get it.
Because that's what Liv was doing.
Oh, a card on my GM. Yeah.
Esqueef here said, I agree with SRS. I wouldn't know. I don't listen to the show anymore. That one guy got in my head. I don't think the other segment undermines Seth's anger. CM Punk didn't know Damien's decision. He's still selfish, careless, didn't care about other people's goals, and keeps getting cheered. Seth can for sure be justifiably mad. But
not anymore.
Not about the... Yeah, exactly. That's the thing is that... Well, so next week, surely he has to apologize to Punk then and be like, so I'm not going to ruin your Drew thing anymore because I've got my world title match.
Yeah, CM Punk didn't know. That's true. CM Punk did still cause that, but it's like if the heat under him and the gas was like way up, he's now a lot lower because he's got what he wanted. It's like it's harder to be mad when you've got what you wanted.
Michael here said, Luke, I completely agree. It made no sense for them to do what they did with Seth after his promo with Punk. It's like they completely undercut what they did in the opening. I have to admit, Ollie was right all along. Pipe bomb is greater than math. I'm sorry, Luke. Hi, Pete.
I did that.
He did that. He's too busy Ron Burgundying.
The Abyss 86 said, Seth is justified. Punk cost him the belt. Priest said after Gunther, but Priest isn't going to beat Gunther. Seth is nowhere near getting that belt, and it will be Punk's fault. Plus Punk's half-assed apology and the fact that Seth hates Punk anyway. But you didn't need to do that bit then.
No, also, if Seth beats Gunther, he can go after the belt, and if Seth really rates himself, he can get the belt off Gunther. Like, I don't... No to this.
Yeah, I don't buy that.
It's so funny. This feels like bending over backwards in the way that I'm sometimes accused of desperately trying to make it work, which I often do. This is.
But it's also walking back on a stipulation for a match that you've sold a pay-per-view on, and then on the next night saying like, actually, the stipulation doesn't matter.
Sold a pay-per-view on. They encourage you to watch a PLA on Peacock. It's not the same.
It is the same thing, though. That is why you have stipulations for matches, is to promote pay-per-views and get people to sign up for Peacock and watch the shows.
But it's not the same as when
48 hours later be like, actually, the stipulations don't matter. That is what we used to criticize WWE for doing all the time. Yeah. And yet they've done it here, and people are praising them for it.
My point is it's not the same as when they said Austin's going to wrestle on this show with no intention of Austin wrestling on that show. Because they're not buying a pay-per-view.
Yeah, that is very different. Yeah. This is not Survivor Series 1999.
Yeah.
But like, I don't buy that at all.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Johnny Nero here said, coming a little late here, but chin up, Luke. Punk and Seth still works. It's just not about the ship anymore. It's making Punk pay for the chaos. Like this promo with Priest, because it furthers his face turn. It's honor. He recognizes the taint of Punk drew on it. You can do the Priest baby face turn without walking back on the stipulation.
Also, if if now it's about Punk paying the chaos, it makes Seth feel less justified. It really is less justified. It's not that he's not justified, it's he's so much less justified in the way that we were really like amping the praise for.
Juan Villa's been a member for 29 months in a row, said, why do you guys call days off holidays? Always been curious.
English, we say holiday instead of vacation.
Yeah.
So I go on holiday, I don't go on vacation. Also, the holidays, we don't call Christmas or Easter or Diwali or any of these holidays. They're like,
Christmas.
Yeah, that's what we call them. So, and also because you say happy holidays in America because it's a collection of holidays that happen at the same time. We don't have that in the same way here, so we just say Christmas.
Yeah.
So when I say I'm on holiday, that's what vacation is.
Yeah. What were the holidays?
Yeah.
JMC said, have a horrible last few years. Watching wrestling and watching wrestling YouTubers are some of the only times I can forget about my depression and feel more myself. Please don't focus on negativity and realize the impact you have through the work that you do. Love you guys. Love to you as well, my friend.
Yeah, big time.
Kevin here said, I heard a lot that we need to ignore the haters to focus on the positive. I think it's important when people are being disrespectful, offensive, and also dumb to call them out. So I applaud you guys for always pointing them out. Much love to you all. Here's the thing. I am so happy for people to disagree with me.
Yeah, there's a difference between disagreeing and being a dickhead.
Absolutely disagree with my opinions. That is why we have opinions. I disagree with some of your opinions. You disagree with some of my opinions. Disagree with my friends' opinions on multiple things.
It simply doesn't matter that I'm always right.
Well, that's it. But it's about being adult about those conversations. You can disagree with my review of Money in the Bank and be an adult about it. But then to just disregard everything in the review because you've only seen a 20-second clip and then resort to name calling for that, then I think you are being, and you can both say, call me a hypocrite here because I'm going to do some name calling, an empty-headed dingleberry. But you're not, you are
PG, thank you.
But it's a childish reaction to it.
It's just sad.
It is sad.
Because sad.
Well, I talked to you a little bit about this off mic. I love this job. This is my favorite job. This is the best job I've ever had in the world. This should be the most fun I've had doing this job because wrestling is so much fun at the moment. But there are people who make me hate this job.
Yeah.
There are people who make me not want to do this job. There are people who make me not want to share my wrestling opinions.
Yeah.
Because people just take it too seriously, man.
Yeah.
Like it's if I say something positive about WWE, for whatever reason, there are people who are just dyed in the wool being like, no, I hate everything that WWE has done, so you're a moron, and I'm going to call you names, and I'm going to highlight everything that you do, and I hate you for that. And the same thing, if I say something positive about AEW, there are people who are dyed in the wool over here who are just going to hate me for having an opinion about AEW, a positive opinion about AEW. And I don't get that mindset.
What's so hard is that I sometimes find myself like peppering, I've said something too positive. Now I need to pull it back, or the others that I've accidentally mentioned. I've invoked AEW. Now I need to strive for balance or whatever. When actually it's just like we should just be having a conversation like nobody's here because that's how we do a better job. But we don't want to do a conversation like nobody's here because we want to talk to you lot because we appreciate the chats and the ultra chats and I think actually the nuanced conversations that we have. Like a lot of people seem to disagree with us about the Priest and Seth thing.
That's fine.
That's perfectly valid, and I think there's a very respectful.
Yeah.
And thank you for contributing your chats, and that's 100%. Why we read the ultra chats. There is just something about us, and it is on X, it is on Twitter. So it's simply not as easy to ignore that, to be honest.
Yeah. And I've disagreed.
As people say, ignore it. It's hard to do that because it often does get personal.
Also, I get sent it as well
because
I'm off Twitter, so people just now send it to me on Instagram. It's like, have you seen what these people are saying about you?
Yeah.
I've disagreed with some of the ultra chats that we have had sent in today, and I then argued my counter to it. But I am not saying that you're wrong. Because you're not wrong. That's your opinion. You're completely entitled to it. And you're completely entitled to disagree with my position on this. But that is what being an adult is. That is having a conversation. We talked about this earlier, but I feel that nuance has been removed from wrestling discourse. And I do blame people like Bischoff and Bully Ray and Disco Dickhead and all these people, because I think they have just become grifters who can just say things because they know it'll get them headlines on wrestling websites.
I don't think it's necessarily because of them, but they've exacerbated
the problem. That's why I was kind of making my point. It was I think they have made the problem worse. And tribalism has, of course, made it worse as well because people have just picked their sides. And if you are this side, you cannot like anything over here, even if it's really good. And people have to just take things out of context or only hear 10-second clips and inform their entire opinion about your whole opinion based on those 10 seconds. Like I wrote 2,000 words about that Money in the Bank show. I've given quite a lot of reasons for why I gave it the score that I did. But someone was like, well, he said that there was 90 minutes of wrestling. So why did he like this show? What's the rest of the review? I can tell you quite categorically why I liked the rest of this show.
Yeah.
It's not difficult.
And also, like, the idea of not ever mentioning AEW when talking about WWE or vice versa is so silly to me, because we exist in a world where there's lots of wrestling, and it's like comparing a movie to another movie. Or like I'm going to talk about superhero movies in general, but I simply must never mention DC.
Yeah.
I'll only, do you know what I mean? It's like sometimes we do make a comparison because it's a natural comparison to make.
It's wrestling.
Yeah,
it's wrestling, and we're also in a.
You don't have to watch it.
We're in a world where they are competing with each other. So of course you're going to mention both of them. The last point I want to make on this as well is that because there will be people who will have heard my thing of like, can't judge something on 20 seconds, watch the full thing. If the argument there is like, well, I haven't got time to watch the full thing, then don't pass an opinion.
Yes.
Don't pass judgment on something.
And look,
there are some movies I have not seen. Do you know what I don't do? Pass judgment on them or give my opinion on them. I've not seen them.
Case in point, I know it's so easy to not. One of the few things that was good on Twitter was you would not be able to, or rather, you'd go to share an article and like, do you want to read it first? Like that little thing that they brought in after a while. Because often you'll see a headline or you'll see a clip and you'll get cross and you will not think about it with everything needs a second thought, like a bit of patience and go, do I need to interact with that? Yes or no? Do I know the context of that? Yes or no? Move on. And here's an example of that in a positive way, right? We've shot a TLC of best matches of the year. I'm fortunate enough to be on it.
Yeah.
Because I'm on the WWE beat on our shows, generally speaking, and I have a lot of other things that I'm trying to do in my life, and then also find time to sleep and go to the gym and all the rest of it.
Brag.
It's not a brag. Look at me. It's not working.
You're looking great.
I haven't seen a lot of Will Ospreay matches. So rather than just include them and hope for the best, I instead chose to just focus on the ones that I have seen. I subsequently made jokes for the entire episode.
But that's it. It's about
hating Will Ospreay.
That's it.
But that's because it's so obviously not true.
We turn it into a bit because that's funny.
It's funny. It's not that serious. And we can be serious and incredibly passionate. Wrestling is one of the most precious and important things in my life, so I will be very serious about it. I'll also make jokes about it. I'll also be a bit silly with it. I think we could all do with chilling out a little bit.
Ed here says, to hell with the haters, Luke. We love you, my good sir. P.S. Cena, 17-time champion.
I'm not against it.
Yeah.
My pitch was that he wins the Royal Rumble, then wins the world title at WrestleMania, then wins Money in the Bank, uses that to win the other world title, has both of them at the same time. I think that's the way you go out. And then he loses them to Karrion Kross at WrestleMania, whatever the show in December is.
Here's my pitch.
And then goes to World End.
Here's my pitch. He spends the year chasing and never gets there. And then he finally gets his shot at the world title on December 31st, 2025. Legit the last opportunity he can have to win the world title.
And does he win it?
I haven't got that far yet.
You got all the way to the end of it, but you haven't thought about the finish.
If I was to book it, I was like, that would be the date to do it. You don't do it at Mania. You don't do it at Money in the Bank. Don't do it at SummerSlam. You do it the last possible opportunity.
Yeah.
December 31st, 2025. The last match he's ever going to have.
Which, of course, will be between John Cena and Randy Orton.
And Karrion Kross.
Yeah,
when someone said like 5 matches, well, not Randy. As much as I'm into Randy now, I do not want to see Cena Randy again.
Do you know what the perverse thing of that I didn't expect is that I love Randy Orton so much right now, I don't not want to see it. Like I kind of want to see John Cena versus Randy Orton again.
I just want to have them stare off in the Rumble. That's as far as I'm going to go. Oliver has become a new member. Welcome to the party, pal. Kuzu here said, people are down in the Money in the Bank main event because they still don't take Solo seriously. Even Toronto didn't seem to react much to pinning Cody, in spite of the fact that he's the champion because it's still Solo. I think that is that's a damning indictment again of the creative process because they have not capitalized on the Cena win year previous. Jonathan here has been a member for 34 months in a row, said, to be fair to Dom, was originally a pawn to get Ray that he got Stockholm Syndrome and became Patty Hearst. So wrestling.
Thank you for invoking Patty Hearst on this podcast. I really appreciate that.
And Good Sports Review said, you guys have inspired me to pursue a career in football content
There
creation.
it
I've reached
is. There it is.
1,500 subs, so thank you for the inspiration. Bray debuts at SummerSlam. Wow, this is very similar to that other previous chat, wasn't it? As did The Fiend, so it makes sense the White Six and Bo do the same.
Yeah.
Well
done.
I've also remembered to do the poll.
For a change.
Hey now.
You're an all-star.
75% thumbs up, 21% thumbs in the middle.
That feels like the correct amount.
That
for
is
this
what I
show.
would say.
It was perfectly enjoyable to watch, but if you pull at it too hard, you get to 25% mid.
That's all we got time for on this edition of the show. We'll be back on Thursday with the AEW Dynamite review. And then we do not have a pay-per-view.
Oh my God, a week off?
Yeah, well, we haven't got a pay-per-view until the start of August.
Wild.
Like, it's the rest of the month now.
Yeah.
There's no more pay-per-views this month.
But that's fine though, because we've got 12 in August.
We have 2 in August, Dan.
We have SummerSlam, we have whatever NXT want to do, we have Bash at Berlin, and we have All In. We have 4 pay-per-views.
That is in August, isn't it? So, for some reason, I thought Bash was in September.
Nope. Oh, it's like August 31st.
Yeah.
It's the end of August, but nonetheless.
But anyway, we'll be back on Thursday for the AEW Dynamite review. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you all for your very kind old chats and your very kind comments. Just a quick refresh in case we missed one. I can't bear to do any more holdovers in the next show. Love you all. I've been Luke and D-A-D. That has been Dan
Layton,
Layton.
D-A-N.
Jam that jam.